Hello, everyone. We are going to do a live stream today all about how to deal with rejection in your UX job search. So, if this has happened to you recently or in the past, or you have friends that you know this has happened to, you might want to invite them because I have a lot of actionable things you can do now or in the future if this happens to you. We are using some really cool software that allows us to stream to multiple places at once. So we are on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter all at the same time, which is really, really cool. The one little thing I will tell you is that in LinkedIn, if I post comments in the chat, you will not see them. So if you're on LinkedIn and you don't want to miss out on any comments or links that I post, head over to my YouTube channel, and that's where you can see the links that I might post in the chat. I know that is not the ideal user experience, but that is just how this software works, and it is one of those things that is out of my control. So if you want to hop over to my YouTube channel, I am going to put my YouTube channel kind of on the banner here. And so go over to that and then you'll see the comments. Just do me a quick favor. Let me know that you can see me and hear me okay. So put something in the chat so I know, because I can see your comments when you chat them to me. So just give me a thumbs up or something to let me know that the audio and video is okay. And then we will get started with this live stream all about how to face rejection in your job search, because I know that this comes up a lot in all of our job search. It has even happened to me multiple times. But I think there is a tendency to kind of get trapped in negativity. And I think social media kind of exasperates this, because I don't know about you, but oftentimes when I go to LinkedIn and Twitter and elsewhere, Medium, I see a lot of really negative toned messages and posts about the UX job search. And I think that if we can reframe this a little bit and change our attitude about this, it's going to help us in the long run. So I see you guys. Thank you for letting me know that you can see all the tech. Okay, awesome. So I want to get started here, and I have a few questions for you. But first, I want to let you know that on Thursday, so in 2 days, I am doing a live workshop that is all about how to treat your career like a product. Maybe you've seen me tweeting about this or posting about this, but one massive irony that I think is contributing and holding a lot of you back in your career is that you are not treating your career like a product. And we're going to go into all the details about that on Thursday, but it's kind of ironic if you think about it. You spend a lot of your time working on other people's products, and you're doing research and you're doing strategy and you're making prototypes and you're testing them and you're being really meticulous about how you do that. But when it comes to your career, you don't do any of that. Most of you don't do any of that. So on Thursday, we're going to do this workshop that's going to show you how to treat your career like a product so that you can get hired without applying to hundreds of jobs, and more importantly, have a real strategy for your career so you can get into your dream role faster, and maybe even figure out what your dream role or the path for your career is. So I'm going to put the workshop link in the chat, and if you're on LinkedIn, you should see it come up on the screen in the purple bar. That's where you can go to RSVP for the workshop. It's by application only, so you need to fill out an application. It's a workshop and kind of open house for Career Strategy Lab, which is my UX job search accelerator that I run that helps you really navigate the job search, creating your resume, portfolio, networking, everything in between. So that is happening on Thursday if you want to join us. But let's get started here. So I ask this question all the time, and maybe you've heard me ask it before, but before we get started, I want to know what stage you're at in your career. Are you just starting your career? You graduated from college, you're just launching your career, and it happens to be in UX. So are you a launcher? Or are you a switcher, which is someone who has a previous career and you're coming into user experience from academia, from being a teacher, a psychologist, a journalist, a police officer, who knows what. So that's switchers. Or are you a climber, which is someone that's been working in user experience for a while, and you're trying to figure out what exactly is your next career move? So let me know in the chat. Okay, we have a lot of different people. We have, looks like a pretty even mix of launchers, switchers, and climbers. We have a switcher, Anna switching from psychology and photography. Yoshi is in the middle of a boot camp. Willow is a hairstylist turned content designer. Awesome. Hairstylist, you have to have a lot of really good people skills and research skills, I think, to be a hairstylist. All right. We have Evan, who is a career switcher. Arrow switching from behavioral health. We have a bunch of climbers. All right. I'm not going to be able to read all of these, but this is awesome. Now, I have a question for all of you. If you've been applying to jobs, have you recently applied to jobs and not got interviews? Or have you applied to jobs, got interviews, but not received any job offers? Let me know in the chat kind of what the rough current state of the union is for your job search. And it's totally fine if you're not applying to jobs right now, because you will learn a ton from this to apply to your future job searches. All right, so let's see in the chat. There is a little bit of a delay, but okay, Sharon says, applied to a few, one rejection, and a few no responses, no interviews. Okay. A lot of you are kind of saying you applied to jobs, but you just got like less than 5 interviews, which is not surprising. All right. Jenny has applied to hundreds of jobs with no interviews, no success rate. All right. I'm really, really glad that some of you are really tracking this stuff and are putting in percentages. That is really, really important. And hopefully after what we teach here today, and after you go back and watch a ton of the other YouTube videos I have, you can start to make some changes that are going to impact that percentage. Okay, so I was not going to make slides for this session, but I communicate really well with slides. And I think you guys appreciate slides because it can kind of help different learners consume the information different ways. So I made some slides. Let me just hide the toolbar so we have a little bit more here. All right, so here are these slides. And I want to go through some strategies that you can start to apply regardless of if you're getting interviews, not getting job offers, whatever it is. So let's go to the first slide here. So if you're not getting job interviews or job offers, there's 3 things that I think you can do. And the very first thing that I think you need to do is troubleshoot. So just like when something is not working in a product you're using, what do? You go troubleshoot it and you hunt down where the problem might be. And troubleshooting might mean looking at analytics. It might mean looking at analytics and realizing, oh, there might be a problem here, but we need to do some research to figure out why. So it's a little bit of critical thinking that has to happen. So how do you troubleshoot your job search if you're not getting job interviews or job offers? So first, I want us to zoom out a little bit and think of the job search process at a very high level, right? You're applying to jobs, then you're moving on to some initial screening of some type. Then you're moving on to a series of interviews. It might be 2, 3, who knows? And then hopefully you are hired. So that's the process at a really high level. But in terms of troubleshooting, what I really want you to think about is different kind of checkpoints in this process. So to me, there's really 3 checkpoints where you can pivot, because the reason that you're applying to 50, 100, 200 jobs and not getting interviews is because you're not checking in and you're not yourself the space to make some pivots, right? Because let me know in the chat, how many of you are guilty of doing the numbers game in your job search? You apply and you keep applying, and maybe it's 50, 100, 200, 400 jobs, and you're still not hired. That is what I call the numbers game. And I really don't think it's a great strategy to play that game, because you're really gambling with your job search and you're leaving it to chance. So instead, after today, you are not going to play the numbers game, and you're going to do exactly what's on this slide. And you are going to start using this checkpoint methodology to help you avoid applying to more than 50, let's say, jobs. Okay, don't feel bad, but a lot of you are guilty of playing the numbers game. All right, so we're not going to do this anymore, because now you're going to know better. So the 3 checkpoints in your job search, the first checkpoint should really be, are you applying to jobs and not getting any interviews? So you're applying to jobs and you're not even getting to that first 15 or 30-minute phone call. Let me know in the chat if this is kind of where you're at right now. I know some of you said before, but think about like your job search in the last month. Who is stuck at checkpoint A? Then we have checkpoint B, which is you are getting to that 15 or 30-minute screener, but you're not moving forward in the interview process. Who is stuck at checkpoint B? Or maybe you're making it to the interviews. I saw some of your chat earlier where you were saying you're making it through interviews and you're investing all that time and you're not getting job offers. So who is stuck at checkpoint B? Okay. Farhan is stuck at A. Anna is stuck at A, but you think you know why. Okay. I'm glad you're being insightful about this whole process, Anna. Let's see who else. Hold on. Is this making sense, this idea of having these checkpoints? Because a lot of you wait until you get to checkpoint C. But I really think checkpoint A and B are kind of like yellow flags to let you know where problems might be. Okay, Christopher says not even applying yet. Okay, well, good news. Now that you're learning this, you are not going to waste time applying to hundreds of jobs, because you're now going to know this checkpoint methodology that we're teaching today. All right, Evan says between B and C depends on the company. Yeah, totally depends on the company sometimes. All right, let's keep going. So I want to address what you can do if you're stuck at checkpoint A and B. I think we can group those 2 things together in terms of you're applying to jobs and not getting interviews, or you're not making it past that initial screening. So if you are stuck at A or B, To me, that is a signal that something is off with either the jobs you are applying to or some of the key elements of your career materials. So over at the right in the circle bubble things, that is representing you as the candidate and all the different materials that you might have. This is not saying you must have all of these. For example, I'm not saying you 100% need a personal website. So let's get that out of the way. But if you're not getting interviews or making it past the first screener, to me, the problem is likely the types of jobs you're applying to or something in your portfolio and or LinkedIn and or resume and or cover letter or absence of cover letter is possibly the reason why you are not proceeding after you apply. So let's make this really super actionable. I want you, feel free to screenshot this slide or come back to it after. These are questions that you can ask yourself to kind of audit and evaluate your current job search and figure out if you might be making some of these mistakes that could be contributing to why you're not getting even a screening interview or you're not making it past the screening interview. So some of these questions, first of all, and you might laugh at some of these, but also I forgot to tell you, I and my team do UX recruiting now. Now, we are not recruiting for any roles at this very moment, but we do this. So I have seen the materials and the quality of people's resume, LinkedIn portfolio, et cetera, as they apply to jobs. And it is incredible and not in a good way. So, okay, if you're not getting interviews or making it past the screener, the problem might be the jobs you're applying to or your career materials, where remember, the career materials are all those little circles at the right. So questions. Did you actually read the entire job description before you applied? I put this bullet point because it is 1,000,000% evident to me that a lot of candidates do not read the job description based on the hundreds of applications that I've looked at for different jobs that we recruited for this year. So that is thing number one. If you're not reading the entire job description, then the side effect of that is that you are not able to customize or tailor your resume, your portfolio, a little cover letter or email to the job you apply to because you're not reading the job description. So that's thing number one. Number two is ask yourself, if I'm honest with myself, do I match about 60% of the requirements for the jobs I apply to? So a lot of you ask the question, do I need to match 100% of the things under requirements? And I just answered this in a podcast interview yesterday. But the answer in my mind, and after talking with recruiters and hiring managers at a lot of companies, the answer is no. You can think of the job description as a wish list. And yes, does that make it a little bit frustrating for you? Yes, but that's how the world works right now. So we can't get upset or frustrated about that. The takeaway for you is that you don't have to meet every single bullet point on the job description. But I think if you only match 10% of them, maybe don't apply. So ask yourself, based on that job description, do I match 60, 70%? It's a bit subjective based on that job description. Next, am I actually proud and confident of my resume, portfolio, LinkedIn profile, etc.? Or if I'm honest with myself, if I listen to my intuition, am I thinking to myself, I kind of just threw that together at the last minute, or I spent 90% of my time on my portfolio and 10% of my time on my resume. So ask yourself, are you really proud and confident in those career materials? Because if you rushed it, guess what? It's probably not representing your true skills and experience. All right, next question. Did you rush to finish your resume, portfolio, LinkedIn, whatever? If so, that might be a problem, because when you rush things, you make spelling mistakes, you don't read the whole job description, you don't take time to customize your materials, etc. Which leads us to the next bullet point. Did you take time to customize your materials? Now, customize does not mean make a new version from scratch every single time of your resume, of your portfolio. That would be ridiculous. But instead, we're thinking of tweaking. So we are rearranging bullet points. We're changing the order of projects in the case study. Little thing, or in the portfolio. Little things like that can make a big difference. And then last one, did you take the time to write a cover letter? I'm going to say that in air quotes, or try and reach out to the hiring manager or person at the company by email, LinkedIn, etc. I think there is value in doing some type of quote cover letter or email, cold email to people to let them know why you applied for the role and why you think you are a great candidate. We don't have time to teach you how to write cover letters today, but, and I know some of you are going to say cover letters are old school, no one reads cover letters, etc. I have heard on the flip side, people do read cover letters. So I don't think it's one of those things that we can just say definitively, no one reads cover letters. I will say, if you do include a thoughtful, intentional cover letter or email, it increases the chances that you're going to stand out. We don't have time to teach you cover letters today, but I've talked to hiring managers at a lot of different companies, and a theme that I heard was that they do find value in it. And why do they find value in those little emails or cover letters? It's because it helps kind of summarize or synthesize you as a candidate, which saves them time, so they don't have to dig through your resume, portfolio, LinkedIn, etc., and try and figure out why you might be a good candidate. If you just tell them that in the cover letter or email, you're saving them time. And isn't that awesome for them? All right. So based on those of you that said you were stuck at point A or point B, after going through these questions, are you thinking to yourself, aha, maybe I need to go back and do X, do Y, do C? Let me know what you think, because I really want to help you guys get unstuck, because I want to hear 2 months from now that you are no longer playing the numbers game, because you know that's a giant waste of time. So based on these questions, are some of you realizing things you can do, why you might be stuck at points A and point B? Okay, Sharon said, I'm guilty of a few of them. Okay, another person said, yep, I'm guilty of not reading the job description every single time. Some of you said you definitely rushed your materials, and maybe if you just spent a little more time, you could have made them a little bit better. Some of you said you found spelling mistakes after you sent stuff out. Exactly. Okay, so let's move on here to checkpoint C. So this is where you are interviewing, maybe multiple interviews, and you are not getting job offers. What does that mean? To me, I think if we look at all of the elements, if you're getting interviews, to me, that means your resume is good because you're making it through this screener and moving on. Your LinkedIn is good because it's helping you stand out and get noticed and move through the interview process. You've probably maybe written a cover letter or something. So I think everything except for your portfolio might be doing well. I think your portfolio might have some problems, even though it helped you stand out. Here's the thing. when you get into interviews, what is happening? You have to talk about what you worked on. You have to verbally communicate what you did, why you did it, use that presentation, portfolio presentation you made, and talk people through it. And it is a very separate skill set of making a portfolio and talking about portfolio, right? Because some of you get nervous when you have to talk about projects. You maybe just read the slides, you rush through it and talk too fast. You talk too slow and it takes way too long, and then they interrupt you because they're running out of time and you don't have time to finish. So if you are getting to interviews and not getting job offers, to me, it seems like you are not doing a good job at talking through your projects, and you might be selling yourself short when it comes to your skills and experience, because maybe your portfolio looked really good at a first glance, where they're just kind of going through it kind of quickly and looking at it and ticking the boxes of seeing, okay, this person is applying for a research job and I see some research projects and it looks kind of good to me, good enough that I want to talk to this person. But it could be that when you have to talk about those research projects in the interview, you are only scratching the surface of what you did. So let's go to some of our actionable questions here that you can ask yourself if you are getting interviews but not getting job offers. So, first of all, think to yourself, based on the projects in my portfolio, did I talk about or present the one that was most relevant to the job I applied to? And this is an example of tailoring your presentation to the user, meaning the people in the interview, right? If you are applying to a role that is a research role at a healthcare company and you have worked in healthcare previously doing research, then guess what? You better talk about that healthcare research project and maybe not the research project related to travel or something like that. That is a very simple way to tailor your portfolio presentation in the interview to the audience. So think to yourself, were you selective about which project you literally talked people through in the interview? Next question. Did you adhere to the time that you were given, or do you feel like you rushed your presentation or you took too long? And guess what? There's an easy way to deal with this. Before the interview, ask them what the agenda is and how long you will have to present your project. This will drastically decrease the chances that you are blindsided and you think you have an hour because you read that in a tweet somewhere, when in reality, for this company, you only have 20 minutes to present a project. And sure, maybe you get to the interview and things change, but ask it at the beginning of the interview. Say, just to confirm, I want to make sure I understand how much time I'm having to work with. That will be a lifesaver for you. All right. So, did I do any research about the company or interviewing me? So, after doing some research with people involved in hiring, what are some of the mistakes you see candidates make? And they said candidates don't do research before the interview, and or they don't ask questions about the company, the team, etc. The interview is your opportunity to interview them as much as they are interviewing you. And if you can't come up with one question to ask about the company or the team or the product you'll be working on, that kind of sends a signal that maybe you're not super serious or interested about the role. So I would definitely do some research to figure out one or two or three questions you could ask them. Now, I see some questions in the chat. Well, how do I research companies and people? Well, lucky for you, many UX and design and product teams have YouTube channels, have blogs, have Twitter accounts, have Medium accounts. Go see if they have posted any interesting articles or videos and watch one of them, read one of them, and you'll probably instantly have a few questions you could ask, right? We already talked about asking questions. Okay, when it comes to actually presenting your portfolio, talking about a project, are you guilty of just literally reading the slides verbatim? Or are you able to kind of use the slides as a guide and maybe bring up different little stories or tangents that relate to the project, right? Because nothing is more boring or awkward, if you ask me, than going to a presentation and having someone just read the slides. Like if I was doing that right now, I think most of you would have pieced out because it's just weird and awkward, right? It just doesn't seem very human or professional as well, if you ask me. So think about using your slides as a guide and then thinking about slides or areas of the project where maybe you want to spend more time or less time. Tell stories that are kind of in your back pocket that maybe are not literal words in the presentation. And then next one, did you take time to follow up after the interview? And I know this is kind of like the cover letters where some of you are going to say, we shouldn't have to follow up. No one cares if we follow up. Following up is so old school, blah, blah, blah. I disagree. I think that by just sending one email, one message after, it is helping people. Let me rephrase that. It is decreasing the chances that people forget about you. And in that message of follow up, it is also an opportunity to follow up with maybe a question they asked during the interview. You could say, you asked me this and I was thinking blah, blah, blah. And don't reply with 1,000-word answer. You keep it short. Another thing you could do is follow up and ask them a question. Maybe they mention, or maybe you mention an article or something in your interview, but you forget the URL of it. Maybe you follow up and say, hey, I mentioned this article or that video. Here's the link to it. Those little things will help you stay top of mind as they are reviewing candidates. All right, so thinking about the 3 checkpoints based on where you think you are stuck, let me know in the chat, what is one thing that you could do like this week to help you get unstuck? If you had one Post-it note, what would you write on that Post-it note as a little to-do item to help yourself get unstuck? I'm super, super curious. Then we're going to move on to the next thing because we have a lot more to cover. All right. I see some of you saying that you need to do a better job at following up and researching companies. I see some of you saying that you need to work on the actual verbal presentation of your portfolio. Some of you said you love that idea of asking how long you have to present up front. Yeah, it's super simple. It's kind of a no-brainer, but I totally get why maybe you never thought of that before. All right, let's move on. So that was all about how to troubleshoot your job search. Next thing I want you to do is think about reframing rejection. So how to reframe all of this. And one thing I notice with a lot of you is that you get laser focused on the things you cannot control in this whole process of getting hired. And you complain about it and you tweet about it and you write lengthy LinkedIn posts and Medium posts. And I see this. I'm not going to name names, but I see people do this on LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium all the time. This like very negative attitude and fixation on all these things that you cannot control. And so I want us to dig into this a little bit more. What are things that you are focusing on that are not in your control? We're going to get to those in a moment, but I just want you to think about the time that people waste and the mental and emotional energy that people waste when you do things like complain and say or tweet things like UX hiring is so broken, it's so unfair, and check out this crappy job description that some company wrote. Shame on them. I just saw that one yesterday. People complaining that companies need to write better job descriptions and how horrible they are, right? You've seen these posts. I know many of you have. Some of you love to complain that, oh, look, there's another job description that says 1 to 3 years of experience for a junior role. That's such chicken and the egg. We see this all the time. Many people love to complain about getting ghosted and how unfair it is and how unhuman it is, and write big articles to shame companies or recruiters about this. Other people love to complain about how they want feedback and ask for feedback about their portfolio, resume, whatever, but companies don't give it to them. And it's almost starting to feel like people feel like they are entitled that companies will give them this feedback. And I totally disagree. And frankly, like, someone put the law of attraction, Arrow, that's what Arrow said. And yeah, like, if you read this stuff and follow people who tweet and post about this stuff, it's just like a big cesspool of negativity. Is that a good use of your energy? I don't think so. So I want us to focus on things that we can control, because what you can control is all you can control. You can't control the job descriptions companies write. You can't control all those other things. But what can you control? All of those career materials and assets that go into the impression that people form about you and that help them understand, are you a good candidate, right? So it's things like the cover letter, which we talked about, or emails you might be sending, your portfolio, your LinkedIn, your resume, even maybe your social media presence, combined with, so those career assets, combined with things like the quality of the presentation, how you literally talk about your project in an interview, your experience, your job history, etc. How prepared you are for an interview, the research you do, the questions you come with to ask them, right? The following up that you do after you move through the various interview stages, right? And really, I think we could add this additional one of the relationships that you try and form with people in that interview process, or maybe that work on that team or at the company. So I want to know in the chat, thinking about this graphic here, are you guilty of kind of being over on the negativity train and spending a lot of time and mental and emotional energy? And I really want to emphasize this mental and emotional energy thing, because to what Arrow said, that law of attraction, like, I really believe that if you are consuming negative content and surrounding yourself with negative people, and like often this corner of design Twitter that just loves to complain about crap all day long, like, guess what? You're kind of going to have that same view, right? So I want you all to think about what you can do that is more within your control. And frankly, like, are there people that maybe you need to unfollow or mute on different social media platforms, or heck, maybe just take a break from Twitter or Medium for a while to get away and create a buffer from some of this negative stuff that's out there, right? Because it's not helping you. It's totally not helping you. And let's take it a step further. If someone is looking to hire you and they Google you or they go to your LinkedIn profile, and every other post is like you shaming a company because they had a job description you didn't like, you complaining about something, you liking all the negative memes and stuff, like, what's that saying about you? It's kind of like might give the impression that you're like a negative person, right? Is that helpful in you getting hired? I don't really think so. All right, so let's keep going. The third thing we need to do to try and get unstuck in our job search is understand. Now, what do I mean by this? If I were to go to a lot of your LinkedIn profiles or resumes, what word would come up in your little about me statement? Empathy. Many of you say, I'm a UX designer, empathetic about helping people. Many of you love to tout how empathetic you are, and you're just the most empathetic designer out there, and you love empathy, right? Okay, so let's apply that empathy that you love so much to the people involved in the hiring process, the recruiters, hiring managers, etc. Now, I know someone in the chat is going to say, well, they should have empathy towards me. Well, I'm working on that. That is why my team and I are getting into recruiting. But in the spirit of what we can control and what we cannot control, let's control our understanding and try and see where they are coming from. So if you're such empathetic people, let's try and have some empathy for these people doing the hiring, right? So some of the context around maybe why they ghost you or why they cannot give you a detailed critique of your portfolio or resume. First of all, as you may have heard and seen on LinkedIn, sometimes maybe you go to apply to a job on LinkedIn and you can see like 300 people already applied. So yes, it happens. It happened to me. Hundreds of people oftentimes apply for these roles. And that is why, one of the reasons why they cannot give you personalized feedback. How are they supposed to send, 75 emails or 175 emails to everyone who didn't make it to the screener, explaining why you didn't get the interview and here's 3 things you can do to improve? It's not scalable. The other thing to think about is if you make it to a screener or you make it to the interviews and then all of a sudden it's a no, you have to remember, don't take that personally. It might have nothing to do with your skills and qualifications. And it might have everything to do with the fact that that company's priorities changed. Companies have budgets changed all the time. Their priorities change all the time. They do reorgs all the time. And sometimes it's just crappy timing that you made it to the 3rd interview and then something happened in the company and they all of a sudden say, actually, we're going to cut this entire team and we don't need those people in the interview process anymore. Is that fair? No, it's not fun to get a no, but that is important to remember because a lot of you, when you get a no, you by default just think to yourself, oh, like I'm not qualified. My portfolio is horrible. I'm not skilled enough. Woe is me. I'm never going to get hired, blah, blah, blah. And you have to remember there are a ton of reasons why maybe you got that no that have nothing to do with your qualifications. Another kind of thing that adds to, I guess, recruiter and hiring managers' ability to give you feedback is, it is quite frustrating as someone who's involved in recruiting now to see so many applicants who clearly didn't read the job description. And if you didn't put effort into reading a job description and making a resume that doesn't look like it was made in MS Paint or something like that, how motivated am I to help you? Think of it like that. Career materials are underwhelming. I kind of just alluded to that, but I see so many resumes, so many portfolios that just look like they are thrown together, full of spelling and grammar mistakes, definitely not skimmable and scannable. Just as one example, resumes that use teeny tiny fonts and all the words are smushed together and it just looks like a page in the dictionary or something, or portfolios that just have screenshot after screenshot after screenshot and no process. And that kind of leads me to the final point of you as the candidates. Oftentimes you don't think of the user of your resume, of your portfolio, etc. And so you have to think, what are they looking for? What do they need? And we know they are not reading every single word. That's why I just used that example of making your resume or portfolio super, super easy to skim, scan, etc. So I know many of you would love to type in the chat, like, how much you hate recruiters and hiring managers and how they should have empathy for you. But are you at least open to maybe understanding and developing a little bit of empathy for them and trying to get in their shoes? Because I think there's two sides to this. And if you can understand from where they're coming from, I think it will help turn this into a less negative experience, right? All right. So to recap here, the three things I hope you wrote down are these 3 steps, right? If you don't get an interview or job offer, what are you going to do next time this happens? Thing number 1 is you're going to troubleshoot it. And you're going to think to yourself, where was I in the process? And where might I have cut corners, rushed things, got lazy, etc. Next, you're going to reframe and ask yourself, am I latching on to things that I can't control and kind of playing the blame game? Or do I need to think to myself, I'm going to walk away from that negativity and go focus on the things that are in my control, right? And then third, just do a quick reminder of the people on the other side of the process. They're busy. Maybe someone above them told them, we need to cut the budget for this role, and they are just delivering you that news, So hopefully now, a couple of things. Can you see how playing the numbers game has probably slowed you down and got you to where you are today by just applying to hundreds of jobs? But also, can you see how maybe you skipped over really doing these check-ins to say to yourself, you know what? I've applied to 30 or 50 or 100 jobs and I'm not getting interviews. Maybe something is wrong. So, guys, I want to know in the chat, because I love feedback, what is one takeaway? If you could only write one thing on a Post-it note, what is on your Post-it note? It could be like something I literally said. It could be a to-do item that you think, oh my gosh, by Friday, I need to go do this. You're going to unfollow negative people on social media, whatever. I'm really curious. Okay, so let's see here. Nabila said, I really need to remove the negativity and stop feeling sorry for myself too. Exactly. You can't take it personally because you have no idea like why you didn't get the interview, why you didn't get the job offer. Sometimes they'll tell you, right? But even when they tell you, it may not be the true reason, because for all kinds of legal reasons and stuff, they may just give you a generic answer, which again, is that annoying and frustrating? Yes. But if you look at it from the business perspective, they kind of want to cover their asses because they don't want to risk lawsuits and stuff like that. Okay. Vivian said, be proactive, not reactive. I love it. Okay. Jenny said, takeaway, let go of negative feelings about job searching. Exactly. And now, like, you guys should feel a lot more empowered, because now you can see how you can kind of evaluate and pivot things if you're not getting the interviews and job offers. Christopher said, mute the negative people and start applying. Exactly. Sharon said, the biggest action I can take away is updating my portfolio and resume and actually making sure I'm applying to jobs I qualify for. No more numbers game. Ferran said, reframe. Arrow said, look at my portfolio and resume, update from the user's perspective. Yeah, and update not only the content, but the design. Someone on LinkedIn said, control what you can and don't worry about what you can't. The hard part is telling the difference. I love that. Exactly. All right. Yuri said, I need to work on my career materials to restore my confidence. Exactly. Once you have materials you're proud of and confident in, guess what? You will by default do a much better job at presenting it in interviews and such. Okay. Evan said, the verbal presentation part is sticking with me. I need to record myself talking about my portfolio and make sure it makes sense. Yes. And pro tip, Evan, use the tool Loom, LOOM.com. It will record your presentation, your screen, your video of yourself, and your audio, and it will create a transcript too. So if you feel weird about listening to yourself, which I do recommend, you could also sit down and read that transcript too. Maria said, I need to make a master list of bullet points for my resume so I can adjust it more quickly. Love it. Carol said, prepare anecdotes for my portfolio projects and turn them into more of a conversation. Love it. Vivian said, the paradox, must get on LinkedIn to show that I'm active and involved, but getting on LinkedIn messes with my mental health because of negative posts. Well, Vivian, there is a little mute button or delete button, so you can just delete all those people or mute. If you still want to stay connected, you can mute them. Let's see. Oh, Evan said, I love Loom. Yeah, I love Loom. We use it like every day at our company. Okay, everyone. We probably have time for like 3 questions. So I am going to scroll back up and see if there's any good questions. And then later in the week, I'm going to try and come into the comments on these videos and reply if there's any questions that we don't cover as well. So let me just randomly scroll back up. Okay, show. So Krista said, I don't understand how you tweak your portfolio for each application. I apply to multiple jobs in a week and I have no idea when they will look at my portfolio. How do I handle this? So this question is making me think that Krista has a website portfolio. And I have an article and a video as to the pros and cons of having a website or a PDF portfolio. And Krista, this is why I think that website portfolios can be tricky, because you said it, you can't customize a website portfolio. Whereas if you had a PDF, you could open that Keynote file, let's say, duplicate that Keynote file, and now you have the keynote of your presentation for the job at Home Depot. And then you can rearrange the order of the projects or remove a project or add a project, and then click export to PDF, done. So if you are at the stage where you're thinking to yourself, should my portfolio be a website or PDF? You need to go read the article, which is at this URL. You'll have to, I can't grab the exact article link, but just go there and you will see a bunch of articles, but that hopefully answers your question. All right, let's scroll down a little bit. Takeaway. Samantha said, use the checkpoint strategy to troubleshoot the job search process. I love it. Okay, Marshall asked, how much detail should we go into on case studies? You want to make it scannable and accessible, but my audience isn't versed in UX. Okay, a lot of my answers are going to say, go to that URL on the screen right now and look at the articles there, because I have articles about how to write a UX case study, how long should a UX case study be. So Marshall, that's going to be much more valuable for you to do later. Check out those articles. Let's see. Jenny said, how can I find jobs I'm actually qualified for when I have no experience and everyone requires 3 to 5 years of experience? Okay, I should probably write an article about this, but this goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, where I said every bullet point in the job description is not a requirement. And in my conversations and research with recruiters, hiring managers, etc., one thing has come up time and time again, and it's that chicken and egg thing, right? It says I need this many years of experience. Hold on. I'm going to put something in the chat. Tweet about years of experience. Go read that tweet. But something that has come up many times is a company says, or a company has a job description that says 1 to 3 years of experience. Someone who has 8 months, 6 months, 11 and a half months applies anyway, because they think to themselves, yeah, I don't have 1 to 3 years of experience, but looking at my resume and my portfolio and maybe my 5 years of previous experience as a teacher, I think I could actually do this. And I'm pretty confident in my materials. So I've heard multiple times of companies hiring people who did not have the 1 to 3 or 3 to 5, but were hired because the quality of their resume, their portfolio, how they talked about projects and interviews blew many of the other candidates like out of the water, And I can say that because I have seen tons and tons and tons of applications of people with 6 months of experience and 16 years of experience. And sometimes there are a lot of those people who have been already working in UX who don't do a good job at their resume or portfolio. And so that's why I said the other day, the bar to stand out is so, so low. We did a YouTube on this 2 days ago. If you just go to the YouTube channel, it's called Why the Bar to Stand Out in Your UX Job Search is So Low. That is why. So don't not apply to a job because you have 7 months of experience and it says you need 1 to 3. As long as your materials are really buttoned up and you're really, really confident in them. Let's see. A lot of the questions that are asked are ones I already answered, or go to the article link on the screen right now and go look at those articles. You guys are all grown-ups and can read the titles of those articles and find the ones that are relevant to you. But you should bookmark that link. It's really valuable. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. We kind of just already answered all those. All right. I think that's all we'll do then. So, everyone, don't forget that on Thursday, we're doing that product of you workshop and open house for Career Strategy Lab, which is that UX job search accelerator I told you about. And it's going to be 90 minutes, 2 hours at the most, depending on how long Q&A goes. It's going to be awesome. Thursday, June 9 at 1 o'clock Eastern, but you need to register for a spot. And we're going to shut the registration down today around 6 o'clock Pacific. So go to that link now if you want to get your ticket. I don't know when the next live stream we will do is, because we kind of have a busy month coming up inside Career Strategy Lab. But if you just follow me on LinkedIn or subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow me on Twitter or Instagram or wherever, you will surely know when we're going live again, because we try and let you all know in all the places. All right. Thank you for your awesome questions today. And I see some familiar names in the chat. So I know some of you are already coming to the workshop Thursday. And if that sounds interesting to you, go get your ticket. It's a free ticket. Right now, you just have to fill out this application and you'll come to the workshop and to our super cool open house about Career Strategy Lab. All right. Thank you all for coming, and we will see you on Thursday. Bye, everyone.